He didn't speak. He didn't threaten. But when Malik stood up in that cafeteria, one punch changed everything. By the time it was over, the school's golden boy was bleeding. 5 others were broken. And the quiet new kid became a name no one would ever forget. Stay to the end. What he does next will shock you. No one expected the new kid to bring war with him, not the teachers who welcomed him with empty smiles, not the students who barely glanced his way as he entered the homeroom, and definitely not the 3 athletes in varsity jackets who thought Roosevelt High's cafeteria belonged to them along with everything and everyone inside it. But that Monday, at 12:08 p.m., under the fluorescent lights and the low hum of vending machines, something changed. Not with a shout, not with a threat, but with the quiet flick of a wrist, a movement so fast the eye barely caught it, followed by the unmistakable crack of bone meeting bone. Malik Thompson had arrived, and the storm had come with him. The thing about storms is they don't always make noise when they roll in. Sometimes they appear in silence, hanging low like humidity, thick, invisible waiting. Malik was like that, all calm, all quiet, all restraint. It was his third school in 2 years. Military families moved like that, assignment to assignment, base to base, new city, new state, new survival plan. His mother, Sergeant Linda Thompson, had learned not to apologize for it, and Malik had learned not to resist it. But Roosevelt High was different. From the moment he stepped onto the cracked concrete steps of the school, something in the air felt thinner, the kind of place where roles were assigned, not earned, where silences weren't neutral, they were noticed, where stepping into the wrong hallway could mean stepping into someone else's turf. He wasn't scared. Malik didn't feel fear the way most people did. Not after Detroit, not after everything Uncle Leon had drilled into him from the time he could throw a punch. He just wanted to get through his senior year, no drama, no attachments, just a clean, invisible exit. The school's interior smelled like bleach and vending machine popcorn. First period passed without a word. Second period came and went. Teachers gave him the usual lines, just do your best. Let us know if you need help adjusting. Where did you say you're from again? He never answered that last one. By the time lunch rolled around, Malik's feet had memorized the tile floor. He moved like someone who'd been taught not to be seen back straight, shoulders relaxed, gaze forward, eyes scanning but never staring. He entered the cafeteria with his tray in hand, looking for somewhere unclaimed. No friends, no enemies, just space. That's when he made his first mistake. He sat down, and the room changed. The chair screeched louder than it should have as he pulled it back. The table was near the back, close to the vending machines. It wasn't marked not formally, but the social lines were written in invisible ink here, and Malik had just stepped over one. 3 boys stood up from a table nearby, all cut from the same cloth, broad-shouldered, cocky, confident, in a way that came from years of being told they were golden. The leader, Trent Donovan, walked over first, chewing gum with exaggerated slowness, his Letterman jacket unzipped, revealing a tight athletic tee underneath. The kind of kid whose father had season tickets and a direct line to the principal. "Yo," he said, voice loud enough to draw attention. "You good?" Malik looked up. Calm, neutral. "Yeah," Trent smirked. "See, I think you're not. 'Cause that's our table and you're in it." Malik didn't blink. There's no sign. There doesn't have to be. The other 2 boys flanked Trent, laughing under their breath. One had a football tucked under his arm like he couldn't bear to let it go. The other wore mirrored sunglasses indoors. "Maybe he's slow," one of them said. "Or maybe he's new." And stupid Malik looked at them with something close to pity. He stood tray still in hand. "I'll move, but You should know this isn't how you want your day to go." The boys laughed harder. "Ooh," Trent mocked. "Look out. He's a philosopher." Then he slapped the tray out of Malik's hands. It clattered to the floor. Salad sandwich carton of milk splattered across the linoleum. Someone gasped. Someone else started recording. "Pick it up," Trent said. "You don't eat unless you eat like a dog." That's when it happened. Malik's right hand moved, not wildly, not with anger, just precision. A straight punch, clean and brutal, crashed into Trent's face like thunder. His nose exploded in a spray of red. The sound echoed through the cafeteria like a gunshot. Trent's body collapsed backward into a table, sending trays flying. His friends lunged. The one with the football charged. Malik stepped to the side, elbow rising into the boy's jaw. A crack. A grunt. He dropped like stone. The one with the sunglasses hesitated. Bad idea. Malik spun, heel connecting with the kid's ribs. Air left his lungs like a popped balloon. He fell before he hit the floor. 3 boys down. Malik didn't gloat, didn't speak. He adjusted his stance, breathing steady as dozens of students stared stunned. The silence wasn't empty. It was charged. And Malik, he just stepped over the spilled lunch, picked up his book from his bag, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, and walked out without a word. Outside the cafeteria, the spring wind stirred, and the storm that had entered so quietly now had a name. By the end of the day, the whispers were everywhere. Did you see what happened? Who is that guy? Is he some kind of trained killer? Phones lit up with the footage. The video traveled from hallway to hallway, screen to screen, inbox to inbox. Quiet Storm trended on Snapchat by 3:00 p.m. Malik didn't check his phone. He didn't need to. He sat on a bench under the old oak tree by the east wing of the school, flipping pages with bruised knuckles. The sunlight hit him through the leaves, casting fractured shadows across his book. He wasn't angry. He wasn't proud. He was still, and in that stillness, he knew the peace he wanted was gone. Roosevelt High didn't allow quiet boys with fast hands to disappear. Not anymore. If that moment hit you, if it made your heart pound or your chest tighten, if you felt that eerie calm Malik carried, you know something powerful is coming. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. So before we continue, pause for a second and hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support this channel and help us keep making real, raw, and unforgettable stories like this one now. Let's go deeper. Because what's coming next? No one saw it coming. Not the school, not the bullies, and not even Malik himself. Now, a question for you. If you had Malik's skills and someone tried to humiliate you in front of a crowd, would you stay calm, walk away, and try to find another way to handle it? B. Defend yourself immediately, even if it meant consequences. Drop your answer in the comments. A or B. I'm watching them closely, and the best responses might get featured in the next video. For the first time in a long time, Malik Thompson wasn't invisible, but he wasn't exactly seen either. By Tuesday morning, he was something else entirely. An idea, a rumor, a question whispered in every hallway of Roosevelt High School. The boy who didn't raise his voice but dropped 3 jocks like bowling pins. The kid who didn't shout, didn't taunt, didn't run, just moved with the precision of something far older than teenage rage. They called him a ghost, a weapon, a monk, a sociopath. Phones buzzed with footage of the fight, now spliced with dramatic music, slowed for effect, edited for virality. TikToks popped up with captions like, "When the new kid ain't here to make friends," and "Mortal Kombat IRL." One video looped the punch that broke Trent Donovan's nose 3 times in slow motion. each impact timed to the beat of a rap song. But Malik didn't watch any of them. He didn't need to. He could feel the shift in the air as he walked into school, the parting of crowds, the eyes that pretended not to watch, the teachers who gave him a nod that felt more like acknowledgement than welcome, the front office secretary who smiled too wide and didn't ask for his pass. By third period, someone had scrawled in blue Sharpie on his locker, "Quiet doesn't mean soft." He erased it with a tissue. He didn't need a slogan. What he needed was space. But in Roosevelt, high silence had stopped being a shield. It had become a signal, and now the signal was echoing. Malik's mother noticed the shift too. That evening, as they ate in silence, roast chicken, green beans, cornbread, Sergeant Linda Thompson finally set down her fork. Rough day. Malik didn't look up. Not really. You say that the same way your father used to. Calm on the outside, but your jaws tight, shoulders drawn in. He smirked. Guess I inherited more than his cheekbones. Linda leaned back in her chair. I got 3 missed calls today. 1 from the principal's office, 2 from parents I don't even know. That's a record. They didn't say you were in trouble, but they didn't sound calm either. Malik sipped his water. Nothing happened today. That's the problem, Malik. People aren't afraid of what you did. They're afraid of what you might do next. He looked at her. I don't want to hurt anybody. I know, but you did. And whether it was justified or not doesn't matter to people looking to label you. He stood gathering his plate. Then I'll stay quiet, son, she said softly. Sometimes silence isn't protection. Sometimes it's pressure. He didn't respond. But that night, as he stared at the ceiling, Malik felt the truth of her words settle into his chest like stones. The next day, Malik found a new place to eat lunch outside beneath the East Wing overhang, where the wall still bore the ghost of an old-school mural that had been painted over in beige. There, with the sun filtered through branches and the sound of distant sneakers on pavement, he opened his book and tried to vanish again, but the universe wasn't finished with him yet. Can I sit? The voice was soft, cautious, feminine. Malik looked up. A girl stood before him. Olive skin, short dark curls, backpack covered in paint streaks and safety pins. She held a sketchbook in her left hand like it was armor. I won't bother you, she added quickly. I just hate eating alone. He gestured to the spot next to him. Suit yourself. She sat cross-legged, opened a granola bar and didn't say anything for a full minute. I'm Eva, she said finally. Malik. I know, she said, unwrapping her snack. He raised an eyebrow. That obvious. She gave a half smile. You knocked out the football team's royalty in front of 100 witnesses and you didn't even flinch. That's not something people forget. He said nothing. I'm not here to ask about the fight, she added. I don't really care. He looked at her more closely. You don't? Nope. I mean, it was badass. But that's not what got my attention. What did? She opened her sketchbook and flipped it around. It was him, or rather, a sketch of him, seated just like now, book in one hand, shadows across his face. But the expression wasn't rage. It was weary. Focused human. You got that from watching me yesterday. I've got good memory, she said, and you're hard to forget. Malik didn't respond. I saw the video, she added. But I like drawing the parts people don't see. He leaned forward. Like what? Stillness, she said. Everyone's obsessed with motion. Hits flash noise. But the space between actions says more. He blinked, then sat back, a strange tightness in his throat. You're different, he said. She nodded. So are you. They ate in silence after that. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a peace neither of them had realized they needed. That afternoon, Coach DeMarco called him into the gym office. The walls were lined with state championship banners. On his desk sat a whistle, a folder, and an untouched protein bar. Sit Malik sat. DeMarco looked at him for a long moment. You know what I see when I look at you? Malik stayed silent. I see power, control timing. You move like someone who's trained with killers. Malik shrugged. That's dramatic. Maybe. But you also move like someone who's holding back. Malik looked away. I wrestled in college, DeMarco continued. Back when my knees still worked. I know what it's like to feel underestimated. To use silence as armor. Malik looked up. Then why am I here? The coach leaned forward. Because people are watching. Teachers' parents. The school board, and they want to know if they should fear you. And do you? DeMarco smiled. No, but I think you're at a crossroads. You can either let this become your story or you can write a different one. Malik crossed his arms. You offering me a pin. I'm offering you a spot on the wrestling team. Malik tilted his head. I'm not looking to fight. It's not fighting, DeMarco said. It's discipline, structure, a place to focus, what you already know before it eats you alive. Malik didn't respond, but the offer lingered with him long after he left the gym. That night, Eva messaged him on school chat. You okay? Been better. Want a distraction? What kind? Meet me by the oak tree tomorrow. I want to show you something. Thursday afternoon, she was already there, leaning against the trunk with her sketch pad open. I brought you something, she said as he approached. She handed him a small folded page. Inside was another sketch, not of him, of a lion, but not roaring, not attacking, just standing still. I drew it after I met you. He looked at it for a long time. It's not hunting. No, she said. It's deciding. He folded the drawing and placed it inside his book. For the first time all week, he smiled. Not a smirk, not a shield. A real smile, but peace is rarely uninterrupted. On Friday morning, as Malik opened his locker, a voice cut through the hallway noise. You, Malik. He turned. The figure standing before him was built like a freight train in gym shorts and a hoodie, jaw like granite, neck like a tree trunk. Chase Donovan, Trent's older brother, a University of Alabama linebacker with a reputation for brawls and concussions. Malik didn't answer. I heard you touch my brother. Chase said I defended myself. Chase took a step forward. Students began to pause, sensing the shift. My brother's nose is broken. His pride, too. You're gonna pay for that. Malik shut his locker slowly. You want to do this here? Chase smiled. Nah, not yet. I want the whole school to see what happens when a quiet kid gets loud. He walked away, shouldering a sophomore out of his path. Malik exhaled, and for the first time in weeks, he felt something rise in his chest that he hadn't allowed in a long time. Not fear. Focus. He found Eva after last period. She was sketching under the tree again. Something's coming, he said quietly. I know, I don't want it, but you'll face it anyway. He nodded. She tore a page from her pad and handed it to him. This time it was just a pair of eyes. His sharp still awake. She whispered. When silence speaks, it shakes the room. Malik tucked the drawing into his book and looked out across the school lawn. The storm hadn't passed. It had just changed direction, and it was headed straight for him. Pain doesn't always come with fists. Sometimes it wears a jersey and a grin. Sometimes it comes wrapped in a handshake you don't trust, or a stare that lasts 1 second too long at Roosevelt High. Pain was learning how quickly silence turns into expectation, how one act of defense becomes a story, and how a story becomes a label, and how a label becomes a trap. Malik Thompson hadn't asked to be the story everyone was talking about, but that didn't matter anymore, because now someone wanted revenge, and this time the fight wouldn't come from a cafeteria scuffle or a bruised ego. It would come from blood, from brotherhood, from Chase Donovan. Trent's older brother wasn't just a threat, he was a legacy. A college linebacker with the body of a freight train and the temper of a storm, just looking for an excuse to blow. Everyone at Roosevelt knew his name. Some admired him, some feared him, and some, like Malik, had no choice but to walk straight toward him. Because when retaliation comes, it doesn't knock, it ambushes. The warning came from a sophomore in gym class. Malik was changing in the locker room, lacing his shoes when the kid leaned in. "Hey, Malik, I heard something." Malik looked up. "Go on." They said, "Chase is coming for you." Like after school, him and some guys. They're waiting. Malik tied the second lace. "Who told you?" "My cousins on the wrestling team said they've been talking about it since lunch." Malik nodded. "Thanks." He walked out of the locker room, his breath calm, his face unreadable, but inside something was happening. Not fear, clarity. The kind of clarity that comes before impact. When time slows and all the noise gets quiet and the body listens before the mind even catches up. He had seen it before in Detroit, in Kansas, in Raleigh. This wasn't new, but it was personal. He didn't tell his mom. She would have driven straight to the school badge in hand, ready to burn the place down. He didn't text Eva. He didn't want her caught in the middle. He didn't want anyone to see what might happen next. He just waited. After seventh period, he left the building like always. No rush, no panic, just steady movement. The spring air was thick with pollen and whispers. He didn't take the bus. He walked around the south end of campus toward the old gym annex, the one with the rusted bleachers behind it out of view from security cameras. They were waiting. 5 of them, Chase Donovan at the center, flanked by 2 college teammates and 2 seniors from the wrestling team. All of them bigger, all of them built for impact. Chase cracked his knuckles like it was a joke. "Told you he'd show." Malik dropped his backpack to the side and said nothing. One of the wrestlers took a step forward. "No words today, Storm Boy." Chase raised a hand. "Let me talk to him first." He walked toward Malik just close enough to let the tension burn. "You embarrass my family," Chase said. "My brother still can't breathe through his nose." "He started it," Malik said. "I finish things. I don't want trouble." Chase smiled. "Then you shouldn't have touched blood." Silence stretched like wire between them. Then, like a switch had been flipped, they rushed. Malik moved first. He ducked a punch from the left and drove his palm into the attacker's sternum, using the man's momentum to hurl him into a concrete pillar. Another came from behind. Malik spun and clipped his knee, sending him sprawling. But there were 5. And 5 against 1. Doesn't care how good you are. A punch hit his ribs, sharp, deep, loud. He dropped to one knee. Someone grabbed his arm. Another kick landed in his side. He felt the burn, the ache, the weight of numbers. For the first time in months, doubt cracked through the focus. Then a voice cut through memory, low, gruff, familiar. "Uncle Leon, pain sharpens. Fear lies. Get up, soldier." Malik breathed in through the pain, through the nausea rising in his gut. He surged upward, exploding through the hands on his back. One attacker tried to block. Malik spun behind him, used his momentum to throw him onto the gravel. The second came swinging with rage. Malik caught the wrist, twisted, dislocated, stepped past and swept the legs. And then, it was just Chase. The older Donovan brother rushed him like a linebacker mid-game. No hesitation, no finesse. Malik sidestepped the first hit, but the second caught his jaw. The stars burst behind his eyes. His legs wobbled, but he didn't go down. Chase grabbed his shirt. "I'm gonna bury you." Malik's hands moved fast. Elbow to the throat, forearm to the chin, shoulder into the solar plexus. Chase stumbled. Malik reached for his arm and, with a brutal turn, brought it down across his knee. The snap echoed through the alley like dry wood. Breaking. Chase screamed, and it was over. The others were groaning on the ground. Malik stood among them, panting, chest heaving, face bruised but standing. The storm hadn't consumed him. He had walked through it, and now the silence returned. Not fear, not awe, but respect. And something else, stillness. Later that night, Eva showed up at his doorstep with paint on her hands and worry in her eyes. "I heard what happened." "Who told you?" "Half the school." "Also, you have a black eye? I've had worse." He led her inside. She sat on the edge of the couch watching him, like she wasn't sure if he was okay. "You fought all 5. He nodded. "That's insane." "They jumped me." "I know," she said. "That's not what I mean. I mean, it's insane how calm you look about it." He exhaled. "I wasn't always calm." She stood, paced the living room, arms folded. "They could have hurt you bad. They did. But not enough to stop you. I don't want that to be who I am, Eva. The guy who breaks people before they break him." She looked at him. "Then what do you want to be?" Malik didn't answer, because he wasn't sure, not yet. The next morning, Roosevelt buzzed like a hive. The video had leaked again. Someone had filmed it from the parking lot roof. Every punch, every fall, every scream. But this time, it didn't go viral with jokes or edits. This time, it hit different. Students didn't laugh. They stared. Teachers paused when he entered class, not out of fear, but uncertainty. Malik sat alone again at lunch, but the space around him wasn't empty. It was watched. Revered, tense. Even Trent Donovan passed him in the hallway and didn't say a word. Malik could feel the weight of it building, like being on a pedestal you never asked for. That afternoon, Coach DeMarco pulled him aside. "You all right?" "I'm still standing. I saw the footage." "The district saw it too." Malik tensed. "What happens now?" "They want a meeting. Some of them are talking about pattern of aggression. You know how that goes." Malik looked away, but DeMarco added, "Others are saying maybe this school needs someone like you, someone who doesn't just survive, but leads." "I'm not looking to lead." "Well, too late." DeMarco handed him a paper. "What's this permission form student-led extracurricular proposal?" Malik stared at it. "Self-defense club." "You think I should teach people to fight. I think you should teach them not to be afraid." Malik folded the form and tucked it into his backpack. "Think about it," the coach said. "It's better than waiting for the next ambush." At home, he sat in his room with the lights off, knees pulled to his chest, eyes closed. His ribs ached, his knuckles were raw, his cheek throbbed. But deeper than that was something else. Not pain, not pride, something like rebirth. He opened his sketch pad, not his Eva's. She had given it to him that night after she left, said he might need it more than she did. He flipped through the pages, sketches of him, of others, of movement, stillness, conflict, peace. He stopped at a page she hadn't shown him before. It was blank. At the bottom, in small writing, she had left. One question: "What does healing look like to you?" He didn't pick up a pencil, not yet. But he stared at the page for a long, long time, and maybe for the first time in his life, he wasn't thinking about how to win. He was thinking about how to stop fighting at all. And that thought, that was new. When Malik Thompson walked through the front doors of Roosevelt High the next Monday morning, the air didn't feel the same. It wasn't just the weight of bruises or the ache in his ribs that reminded him something had shifted. It was the way silence pressed in around him, not like a shield this time, but like surveillance. He wasn't a person anymore. He was a story walking upright. He was the kid who took down 5 in one fight, the kid who broke Chase Donovan's arm in 2 clean motions, the kid the teachers whispered about in break rooms, the one the principal said needed close monitoring, the one whose name had already reached the superintendent's desk, and not for a scholarship. There were no cheers, no high fives. The initial adrenaline had passed. What replaced it was a nervous curiosity. People looked at Malik the way you look at a fire you're not sure is out. Like one breath might reignite it, his footsteps echoed louder now even when the halls were full. Students parted without a word, eyes flicking from his face to his hands like they expected to see blood there still. A few nodded at him, tight-lipped, like they respected him but didn't want to be seen doing it. Malik kept his shoulders relaxed, his stride even, but inside it felt like walking through fog with a mirror strapped to his chest. Everywhere he turned, he was being reflected back in someone else's fear. And that weight, it was heavier than any fist. At lunch, he went outside as usual. He sat beneath the half-dead oak tree near the east wing, opened his book and tried to lose himself in Marcus Aurelius, but the words didn't land, not the way they used to. Eva found him mid-page. "You're reading upside down," she said softly. He blinked, looked down and flipped the book. Didn't even notice. He murmured. She sat beside him cross-legged on the grass. Her curls were tucked into a bun today and her nails were stained with charcoal. "You're not fine," she said. "I didn't say I was." "Your silence did." He looked out across the school lawn. "They stare like I'm some kind of monster." "You're not. I know that. But they don't." She pulled her sketchbook from her bag and flipped to a blank page. "Then draw something." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm serious," she said. "Don't just sit there being seen by everyone else." "See yourself. Put it on the page. I don't draw, doesn't matter." She handed him the pencil. Malik held it in his fingers like it might shatter. He stared at the page for a while. Then slowly, he started sketching. He didn't draw faces or fists. He drew a door, a cracked door, just slightly ajar, light pouring through it. She leaned over to look. "What's behind it?" she asked. "I don't know," he said, "but I think it's mine." For the first time that day, he exhaled without tension. But Roosevelt High wasn't done testing him. That week, Principal Hanover called him into the office. Again. This time, the superintendent's liaison was there too. Her name was Ms. Carlton. She wore a sharp navy blazer and a smile so thin it looked stapled on. Malik sat across from them, hands in his lap, eyes steady. "We've reviewed the footage." Hanover began all of it. Carlton folded her hands. "It's not about whether you were provoked. It's about the escalation." Malik said nothing. "Multiple parents have expressed concern," she continued. "Some have threatened to transfer their children. There's a petition going around asking for disciplinary review." "I defended myself," Malik said. "You did," Carlton agreed, "and you did it very effectively. That's part of the issue." Hanover cleared his throat. "We're not expelling you." Malik didn't flinch. "But there will be additional supervision. We're placing you on behavioral observation." "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means," Carlton said, "that everything you do next matters even more." They let him go after that. No congratulations. No acknowledgement of what he'd endured. Just a warning wrapped in polite language. Malik walked out of the office and into a school where the walls no longer felt like walls but like glass. That night at home, his mother sat at the kitchen table with her uniform shirt unbuttoned at the collar, her fatigue visible. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm always quiet." She gave him a look, He sat down across from her, the soft hum of the fridge filling the silence. They want to put me on some kind of behavioral list. She didn't flinch because you defended yourself. They said it was about escalation, about perception. Linda leaned forward. You know what that means? It means they're scared of what I might do. It means she said you're not allowed mistakes. Not like other kids. You're a black boy who knows how to fight, and that makes you dangerous before you even speak. Malik swallowed. What do I do? She held his gaze. You hold your head higher, and you make sure whatever you do next is undeniable. He nodded, but he didn't speak. Words felt too thin for the weight he carried. On Thursday, Coach DeMarco cornered him after gym. You think about what I said. He asked about wrestling. No, about purpose. Malik nodded. DeMarco tossed him a paper. It was the same extracurricular form. I signed it already, the coach said. You start next week. Gym annex Mondays and Wednesdays. Malik unfolded it. Student proposal. Self-defense club. Instructor Malik Thompson. You sure about this? Malik asked. No, DeMarco said, grinning. But neither are you. That's why it matters. The first day, only 2 kids showed up. One was a quiet freshman with glasses too big for his face. The other was a girl from sophomore year who had bruises on her arm. She didn't try to explain. Malik didn't give a speech. He didn't tell them about his past or the weight of being watched. He just moved the mat, squared his shoulders, and began. This isn't about fighting, he said. It's about awareness, breath control. We don't hit unless we have to. We don't show off. We survive. We protect. They listened. And for the first time, Malik realized he wasn't just surviving. He was teaching. By the following week, 5 more students had joined. Coach DeMarco stood by the door during each session, arms crossed, watching. He never interrupted. He didn't have to, because what was happening wasn't about a club. It was about claiming space in a world that wanted to define you before you could define yourself. Eva came to the 3rd session. She didn't train. She sketched. Malik saw her sitting on the bleachers, drawing the shapes of movement, the lines of defense, the curve of a foot planted for balance, the coiled tension of readiness. After everyone left, she showed him. One drawing stood out. It was him standing in the center of the gym, back turned to the viewer, arms slightly raised, like he wasn't just teaching a stance but holding something invisible up with him. At the bottom, she had written one word: burden. He touched the paper. That's what they see, she said. He looked at her. What do you see? He asked. She paused, someone still standing. He didn't know how to thank her, so he just said, you should draw that too. On Friday, the principal made a morning announcement. We're pleased to announce the creation of Roosevelt High's first student-led self-defense program, founded by senior Malik Thompson. We believe in our students leading with integrity, strength, and vision. There was a pause before he continued, and because of this, we're nominating Malik for the inaugural Student Impact Award, presented at this year's senior assembly. Malik sat in his homeroom, eyes on the floor. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He just breathed. Not because of the recognition, but because for the first time since stepping into Roosevelt High, he had chosen how they'd see him. Not as a weapon, not as a threat, as someone who built something, something that might last. And for Malik, that was more powerful than any punch he'd ever thrown. There was a moment sometime after spring break when Malik Thompson stopped wondering who he was to other people. He no longer flinched when someone pointed, no longer ducked his head when eyes lingered too long in the hallway. It wasn't arrogance or indifference. It was something harder earned. Acceptance. He didn't need to be liked. He didn't even need to be understood. He just needed to be real. And that began the moment he stopped letting other people finish his sentences for him. They had called him dangerous, broken heroic, threatening, gifted cold. But Malik had learned something on those padded mats surrounded by kids who moved like shadows and breathed like they were afraid of taking up space. He had learned that silence could become a voice, that stillness could be a decision, and that a reputation could be rewritten, not with force, but with purpose. By late May, the Self-Defense Club had grown from 2 students to 12. Some came for strength, others for safety. A few came just to be near him, curious, cautious, seeking some of the calm he carried in his bones. They watched him closely as he demonstrated, moves his voice low but clear, always in control. This isn't about looking tough, he'd say. It's about learning where you begin and where you end. When he moved, it was with intention. Every gesture was quiet but commanding, like the air shifted around him because it knew better than to resist. By then, even teachers who once avoided eye contact now nodded in passing. Coach DeMarco had given him keys to the gym Principal Hanover hadn't summoned him to the office in weeks. And though Chase Donovan hadn't returned to campus since the fight, Malik felt no satisfaction in it, only a sense of finality like a book he no longer had to keep reading. He didn't crave revenge, he craved relief, not just for himself, but for every student who'd ever felt like they had to shrink to survive. In that sense, Malik wasn't trying to be a hero. He was trying to be a door. The announcement came on a Wednesday afternoon during 7th period. The intercom crackled. Then Principal Hanover's voice measured and official. We're pleased to announce that this year's recipient of the Student Impact Award is senior Malik Thompson for his outstanding contribution to school culture, safety, and student leadership. Malik froze mid-sentence in his literature class. The room turned slowly toward him. Some students clapped. Some just stared. The teacher gave a slow nod, the kind that said, "You earned this." After class, Eva met him by his locker. She had a new sketch pad tucked under her arm. "You ready for your big moment?" she asked. "I don't do speeches." "Good. Then speak like you fight. Honest, simple, no wasted movement." He smiled at her. A real one, soft, undeniable. She smiled back. "Front row. Don't forget to breathe." "I'll try." The auditorium was packed for the end-of-year assembly. Seniors in graduation robes. Juniors dressed like they already owned the place. Teachers lined the walls like guardians of tradition. The stage was set with folding chairs, a podium, and the gold and blue Roosevelt crest hanging high behind it. Malik sat in the second row, hands on his knees, heart slow but strong. When his name was called, the applause came in waves, some hesitant, some full-throated, all real. He walked up the stairs without looking down. He didn't trip, didn't fumble, didn't rehearse. He stepped up to the microphone and waited for the silence. And when it came, he spoke. "I came to this school hoping not to be seen." A ripple of knowing laughter passed through the room. But something happened. "I got seen anyway, and not just for who I am, but for what I could do." Some of you saw strength. Some of you saw danger. Some of you didn't know what to think. He let that settle, and maybe I didn't either. He looked toward the back of the auditorium. "My whole life I've moved around. New cities, new schools, new rules. I got good at hiding, good at surviving. I thought that was enough." He paused. "But surviving isn't living. And silence isn't peace. Not always." He glanced toward the bleachers where Eva sat, her hands folded around her sketch pad. "This year I learned that sometimes we don't choose the moments that define us. They choose us. But we do get to decide what we become because of them." He leaned forward slightly. "I'm not a hero. I'm not a villain. I'm just someone who learned how to breathe in the middle of a fight. And now I want to help others do the same." Applause rose slowly, then built into something larger, full-bodied, full-hearted. Malik didn't smile. Big. Just enough. He stepped away from the mic, took the award plaque from the principal's hand, and walked back to his seat. He didn't feel like a symbol. He felt like a person. And that was more than enough. That night, he and Eva sat under the oak tree, the one that had witnessed everything. She handed him her sketch pad. "I saved the last page for you." He opened it. The drawing was of him standing in front of a group of students, half of them mid-movement, half frozen in awe. His expression was calm, open, but behind him, instead of a shadow, she'd drawn a doorway of light. He touched the edge of the page. "You still think I'm the storm?" he asked. She shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I think you're what comes after." They sat in silence after that. But it wasn't the kind that isolates. It was the kind that heals. Graduation came quickly. Malik walked the stage in a navy cap and gown. His mother cried quietly in the audience. Sunglasses hiding her tears, Coach DeMarco stood with the faculty arms crossed, grinning like he was watching his own son take flight. When Malik stepped down from the stage, a younger student he didn't know tapped his shoulder. "Thanks," the boy said. "For what?" "For showing us how to not be afraid." Malik didn't have words for that, so he nodded. Sometimes silence meant more than applause. Summer stretched wide ahead of him. No assignments, no school bells, no fights. He still woke up early, still stretched on the mat in his garage, still kept Eva's sketch pad on his nightstand. But he was different now, not because he'd fought, not because he'd won, but because he'd chosen something harder than violence or retreat. He had chosen to stay, to be seen, to lead. He had chosen to carry himself without armor, and in doing so he had become unbreakable in the most unexpected way. Not a hero, not a villain, just Malik, just himself. And finally, that was enough. From the outside, Malik Thompson's story might seem like one about fists, about fights, about broken noses and viral videos. But when you strip away the headlines, the rumors, and the replayed slow-motion clips, what remains is something much more raw, something most people never take the time to understand. His story was never about violence. It was about the silence before it. The silence of a young black man who had learned to shrink himself to survive, to observe instead of speak, to disappear rather than disturb. Malik's journey wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, emotional. It was the walk of someone who carried the weight of being misunderstood every time he stepped into a new classroom, faced a new teacher, a new hallway, a new unspoken threat. When Malik first entered Roosevelt High, he didn't come looking for war. He came hoping for peace. But peace didn't greet him. Instead, it tested him, provoked him, laughed in his face, and knocked the tray from his hands. And for a moment, Malik did what so many do. When backed into a corner, he reacted with power, with precision, with pain. That moment could have ended his story, could have locked him into the same tired narrative America knows all too well about black boys and aggression, about fear disguised as discipline, about schools that monitor potential instead of nurturing it. But Malik didn't stop at the punch. He stepped beyond it. He stepped through the fire, and instead of letting it burn him down, he used it to forge something greater. A choice. He chose to build, not destroy, to teach, not dominate, to listen, not just fight. And in doing so, Malik rewrote not just his own story, but the stories of everyone who watched him rise. At first, his silence made people uncomfortable. They saw mystery and assumed menace. They saw discipline and mistook it for danger. But Malik didn't chase their approval. He didn't need to, because his sense of self wasn't built on applause, it was built on intention. Every step he took after that infamous cafeteria fight was measured. Not to prove anything, but to reclaim something. He reclaimed the right to be complex, to be both still and strong, to feel pain and not perform it. He reclaimed the right to walk a hallway without being reduced to a headline, and with every move starting the self-defense club supporting others in silence, listening, more than speaking. He began to show that survival didn't have to mean staying small, that power could be gentle, that leadership could be quiet, that courage wasn't just stepping into a fight, but stepping out of it when it no longer served you. He showed that fighting back doesn't always mean hitting harder. Sometimes it means healing louder. There's a particular pain that comes from being misunderstood, especially when the world decides what you are before you get a chance to tell them. Malik's greatest fight wasn't against Trent or Chase. It wasn't against fists or blood or reputation. It was against expectation, against the idea that his strength made him dangerous, that his past disqualified his future, that his scars were signs of trouble instead of proof of survival. And he won, but not in the way we're taught to measure victory. He didn't win with trophies or titles or viral views. He won in the quiet. He won when he saw a freshman flinch and taught him how to breathe instead of brace. He won when a girl with bruises came to practice, not for a fight, but for peace. He won when Eva handed him a blank page and he stopped trying to disappear and started learning how to draw himself into the world again. By graduation, Malik wasn't just a student, he was a symbol. But more importantly, he was still himself. Not perfect, not polished, just present. Present in a world that tried to silence him. Present in a school that didn't know what to do with someone who refused to choose between being feared or forgotten. And so, the story of Malik Thompson is more than just a coming-of-age tale. It's a mirror for every person who's ever felt unseen, for every kid who walks the hallway with shoulders tight from bracing against judgment, for every adult who still remembers what it felt like to be labeled before they spoke. It's a reminder that being quiet doesn't mean being weak, that being still doesn't mean standing down, and that sometimes the most powerful revolution is simply refusing to let the world shrink you. Malik didn't ask to be a hero, he just wanted peace. But in pursuing it with honor, discipline, and unshakable purpose, he became something even rarer. He became whole, not despite the pain, but because of how he chose to carry it. What's the lesson here? Malik's story teaches us one core truth. Your silence is not emptiness, it's potential, and how you choose to fill it defines everything. In a world that often demands, we react loud, fast, impulsive. There's immeasurable strength in pausing, in observing, in responding with presence, not panic. And when injustice comes, yes, defend yourself, but never let the moment drag you down to its level. You can protect your name without losing your soul. You can fight without becoming the fight. That's what Malik showed us, that you don't have to become what they expect just to survive. You can become something they never imagined. How can we apply this to life today? In your own life, think of the moments where you're misunderstood, where people assume your silence means weakness, where you're labeled before you're known. Ask yourself, are you reacting or responding? Are you letting others tell your story or writing your own? Malik's story invites us to breathe before we break, to choose creation over destruction, to remember that real strength doesn't shout, it stands. So the next time life pushes you, pause. And remember, your response can become someone else's permission to rise. Now, a quick question for you. If you were in Malik's shoes after defending yourself and earning a reputation, what would you do next? A. Try to prove to others you're not dangerous by becoming overly agreeable and invisible again. B. Stand tall in who you are, build something positive, and let your actions define your legacy. Comment your answer below A or B. I'll be reading every reply and some of your thoughts might get featured in a future video. And now, it's your turn. What did you think of Malik's story? Did it reflect something in your own life? Did it challenge how you see strength, silence, or survival? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you, and so would everyone else reading. Your perspective might be the very insight someone else needs today. If this story moved you, if you want to see more content like this, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. It's free, and it tells us you value stories that matter. Also, if you believe in what we're creating here and want to support this channel as we grow, especially in these early stages, it would mean the world. If you consider donating, even small contributions help us cover production, writing, editing, and keep making thoughtful quality content for people like you. You'll find the link in the description. Until next time, remember, you are not your fear. You are what you choose to become. See you in the next story.